Namaste everyone. I'm Sophie French. Thank you so much for joining us for another session of Indica Yoga's Yoga Insights. So today's Yoga Insight will feature Brahmachari based Chaitanya PhD graduate in electronics and telecommunications engineering from Pune University. Worked for a year as residential Vedanta course Sandeepani Sandhanalaya in Mumbai in 2011. After completing 2 years of rigorous training under the guidance of Puja Nandaji and the tutelage of Swami Nandaji and Swami Shraddhanandaji, he received Brahmachari Diksha and Gatuti Day in 2013 and was posted at the Chinmaya Prerana in Bombay. In this session, Veji will explain the concept of yoga as envisaged by Lord Krishna in the Bhagavad-Gita. Thank you so much for joining us. Namaste, Veji.
Hari Om. Hari Om.
So I'm going to hand over the session to you now, and I'll see everyone when we do Q&A at the end. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you for inviting. Thank you for introducing. Shall we start? Sahana vavatu sahanau bhunaktu sahaviryam karavavahai tejasvinavadhitamastu ma vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Om Shri Ganeshaya Namaha. Om Shri Saraswatyai Namaha. Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Shruti Smriti Purananam Alayam Karunalayam Namami Bhagavat Pada Shankaram Lokashankaram Samasta Jana Kalyane Niratam Karunamayam Namami Chinmayam Devam Sadgurum Brahmavidvaram Mukam Karoti Vachalam Pangum Langhayate Girim Yatkrupatamaham Vande Paramanandamadhavam Paramanandamadhavam. Om Parthaya Pratibodhitam Bhagavata Narayanena Swayam Vyasena Gratitam Purana Munina Madhye Mahabharatam Advaitamritavarshinim Bhagavatim Ashtadashadhyayini Bhatvamanusandadhami Bhagavad-Gita Bhavadveshini. Hari Om to all. Today's our topic of discussion is Tasmat Yogi Bhava, concept of yoga in Srimad Bhagavad-Gita. Now the moment we hear the word yoga today, our mind goes to yoga. And yoga, which is quite famous now, especially in West, and it is coming back to India through West as a new concept which we never knew. We focused on different postures which are called as yoga asanas, right? But this yoga that we hear today is not the yoga which is given in our scriptures. So today we will try to understand this concept of yoga from Srimad Bhagavad-Gita. Before we enter into Bhagavad-Gita, let us understand the word yoga itself. In Sanskrit, each word has got vyutpatti, has got etymology, has got method by which that word is derived, and therefore what meaning does the word itself elaborates, explains. That's called etymology. So yoga, if we see, comes from root yuj. Yuj means to join. So yoga has two main meanings. Yoga is joining or uniting. Yojanam yoga. So one meaning of yoga word itself is uniting. Second meaning is yujyate anena iti yoga, that by which we unite, or that by which one unites with whatever. That also is called as yoga. Is the goal which is uniting with the Supreme, and yoga also refers to the means that unite us to the Supreme. In the second meaning of the word yoga, we speak of four famous paths: Karma Yoga, Bhakti Yoga, Ashtanga Yoga, Jnana Yoga. There are many other yogas also, but these four are considered as the main paths, the main means. So Karma Yoga, the path of action; Bhakti Yoga, the path of devotion; Ashtanga Yoga, the path, the eightfold path; and Jnana Yoga, the path of knowledge. Now, in Ashtanga Yoga, the 8 limbs which are there, one limb is asana, which is now known as yoga. Okay, but yoga is a much broader concept. So yoga means union, noun form, and it also refers to the means by which the union takes place. So the final merging with the Supreme Self, Supreme Brahman, that also is called as yoga. Also, yoga means the path of action, Karma Yoga or Ashtanga Yoga or Bhakti Yoga, Jnana Yoga, that also is referred to as yoga. Now, Bhagavad-Gita has got a very close connection with this concept yoga, because you will see when you read Gita that the word yoga comes so often, especially in first 6 chapters. If you see, again and again the word yoga comes. And it is very interesting that later on, not at the time of Bhagavad-Gita when the Gita, not at the time of Mahabharata when the Gita was told, but later on the commentators etc. have given names to each chapter of Bhagavad-Gita. Generally we say Madhusudan Saraswati ji has given these names. So you must be knowing, no? Arjuna Vishada Yoga, first chapter; Sankhya Yoga, second chapter; Karma Yoga, third chapter, etc. Each chapter in Bhagavad Gita is given one name, and each of the names ends with yoga. Again, there the yoga means the means, the path, which unites us to the Supreme by something. Arjuna Vishada, by the sorrow of Arjuna; Sankhya Yoga, by the self-knowledge; Karma Yoga, through action. The means, the path that unites us to the Supreme, as explained in each chapter. So each chapter also is given one title which ends with yoga. Okay, and you see why we should study, or why we should understand this concept of yoga from Bhagavad Gita. Because Bhagavad Gita is given by whom? By Lord Krishna. Who is Krishna? Krishna is Yogeshwara. He is the Lord of yoga. And therefore, when Lord of Yoga is explaining what is yoga, it has got much more authority. Therefore, in today's session, we will try to understand this concept of yoga from Bhagavad Gita. The title of today's talk, Tasmat Yogi Bhava, is again a phrase used by Bhagavan Shri Krishna in Bhagavad Gita. In the 6th chapter, Bhagavan says, Tasmat yogi bhava Arjuna, tapasvidbhyodiko yogi, etc., etc. Right? So he uses this word Tasmat, therefore, Arjuna, O Arjuna, yogi bhava, towards the end of 6th chapter. And actually, if we see till that time, till the 6th chapter ending, many times Bhagavan has used the word yoga. So this sentence or this phrase is like summary of the entire thing. Tasmat, therefore Arjuna, become yogi. Then we will see 7th chapter onwards till 18th chapter, the concept of yoga as used by Bhagavan is not much. As I said, the chapter names are still ending with yoga, but these chapter names are not given by Sri Krishna. In the chapter, we won't see the word yoga coming much often. It is still there, but it is not as often as in first 6 chapters. And those 6 chapters end with this phrase, Tasmat yogi bhava Arjuna. So in a way, you can say that in first 6 chapters, the essence that Bhagavan Shri Krishna wants to tell is become a yogi. Now, what do you mean by become a yogi? And this is not the only time Bhagavan is asking Arjuna to become a yogi. You will see in 2nd chapter also, Bhagavan says, Yogastha kuru karmani, 48th verse. Again in 50th verse, he says, Tasmad yogaya yujjasva. Yogastha kuru karmani means being established in yoga, perform your actions. Tasmad yogaya yujjasva. Therefore, Arjuna, be united with this yoga. In 4th chapter, he will say, Yogam atishtha uttishta bharata. Yogam atishtha, being established in yoga, uttishta bharata. Oh Arjuna, get up to fight, get up to do your duties. So again we see that Bhagavan Shri Krishna is not only explaining, but also urging us to become this, to become a yogi. See, we often say, no, any shastra, any scripture does 2 things. One is shamsana, it gives knowledge, and another is shasana, it tells me what is to be done. Shastra word comes like this, shamsanat shastram, that which protects us by guiding, by giving knowledge, by teaching. And shasanat shastram, that which protects us by enjoining certain actions to us. Do this, don't do this. Shastra does these 2 kinds of activities. And therefore, we see here Bhagavan Shri Krishna doing both. Shamsana also, he explains also what is yoga, how to become a yogi, etc. And then second thing also he does, he urges us to become a yogi. He urges us to do this yoga. Okay? So now let us go into the Bhagavad-Gita and understand how Bhagavan Shri Krishna is explaining yoga. What is yoga? Now, as we said, yoga by itself gives 2 kinds of meanings. One, the goal, the final union, and second, the path, the means by which we will attain that union. In Bhagavad-Gita also, in different places, the word yoga refers to different things. Sometimes Bhagavan will be explaining karma yoga and therefore he uses the word yoga. He also calls it as buddhi yoga. Sometimes he is referring to dhyana yoga, meditation, and there he uses the word yoga. Sometimes Bhagavan uses the word yoga or yogi to describe that jnana avastha, paripakva avastha, that state of realization. And therefore a jnani, a sthita prajna is referred to as yogi also. So we have to see according to the context, what is the meaning of the word yoga there. But even if we keep all these contexts aside and just refer to word yoga as yoga, we will see that there is a lot of guidance that Bhagavan Shri Krishna gives in explaining to us what is yoga and also telling us how to develop it. So the definitions of yoga which are there in Bhagavad-Gita are to be understood in 2 ways, what it is and how to do it. So we find 3 main definitions of yoga in Bhagavad-Gita. In 2nd chapter, 48th verse, first definition comes, Samatvam yoga uchyate. Samatvam yoga uchyate. What is this Samatvam yoga uchyate? Yogastha kuru karmani sangam tyaktva dhananjaya siddhya siddhyoho samo bhutva samatvam yoga uchyate. Bhagavan Shri Krishna says, O Arjuna, yogastha karmani kuru. Being established in yoga, perform your actions. Sangam tyaktva, giving up the attachment to the result of action. Siddhi asiddhyoho samaha bhutva, becoming equanimous in siddhi, attainment, asiddhi, non-attainment. So whether something or you don't gain something, remain equanimous. And what? This yogastha kuru karmani. Why am I saying like this? Sri Krishna says, Bhagavan says, because samatva is yoga. This equanimity of mind is called as yoga. Please note this. Samatvam yoga uchyate. This samatvam yoga uchyate is also taken as Brida Vakya by many organizations, etc. Samatvam yoga uchyate. The equanimity of mind is called as yoga. So again, please note, it is not just different postures that I am doing. It is not just pranayama. It is not just, it covers everything. That equanimity of mind, the state of my mind where mind is not troubled by what is happening around me, that state is called as yoga. Samatvam yoga uchyate. The balanced state of mind, where the mind is not too elated when mind gets something that it likes, or not too depressed when it does not get what it likes. That stable state of mind, equanimous state of mind, is called as yoga. Equanimity is yoga. Samatvam yoga uchyate. Now just 2 verses later, in 50th verse of 2nd chapter, Bhagavan gives one more definition of this yoga. He says, Buddhi yukto jahatiha ubhe sukruta dushkrute tasmat yogaya yujjasva yoga karmasu kaushalam. Since Buddhi yukta, since a karma yogi, ubhe sukruta dushkrute iha jahati, gives up both punya and papa. He is not walking the path of punya and papa. He is walking the path of liberation, moksha. And therefore he gives up this both paths. Tasmat yogaya yujjasva. Therefore Arjuna, be united with this yoga. Be united with this karma yoga. Why? Because yoga is karmasu kaushalam. The second definition. Yoga is dexterity in action. Efficiency in action. Perfection in action is yoga. Now this is very interesting definition, because you see, the first definition says samatvam yoga uchyate. Equanimity of mind or equanimous mind is the state of that equanimous mind is yoga. Now second definition says dexterity in action is yoga. Why? Because many times when we say mind is equanimous, we immediately imagine a state where I am not doing anything. And mind is quiet, I am quiet, and that is called as yoga. Immediately Bhagavan breaks that condition and says that it doesn't matter whether you are performing action with your body, senses, etc. or not. You can still be in the state of yoga. Why? Because that perfection in action, that dexterity, efficiency in action, that is called as yoga. Now some people, they say these two definitions are contradictory. Why? Because in one place you are telling that equanimity, another place you are saying efficiency in action. What is the connection? See, the connection is, there are different kinds of connections possible, okay? First connection is, when my mind is equanimous, my action becomes perfect. Only when my mind is equanimous, my action becomes perfect. We also know, we experience this in our life, when our mind is calm, our actions are correct. If mind is disturbed, our actions are haphazard. And that's why many times we must have seen ourselves also, whenever we have to perform some important action, we say, calm my mind, quieten myself. Why? Because if I am too restless, if my mind is too restless, I cannot perform the action properly. So equanimity results in efficiency. Equanimity of mind results in efficiency of action, perfection in action. And therefore, both are explained as yoga, there is no problem. This is one way of looking at it. Another way of looking at it is both the definitions are given from the standpoint of karma yoga. And what is karma yoga? Karma yoga is not a particular action. Karma yoga is attitude behind the action, where the mind is dedicated or dedicating the action to the Lord, Ishwara Arpana Buddhi. And the mind is not thinking about the result of action. It is ready to accept any result as gift from God, Prasada Buddhi. This is called as Karma Yoga. Karma Yoga is Ishwara Arpana Buddhi plus Prasada Buddhi. And Bhagavan has said Bhagavan says in 3rd chapter that this Karma Yoga, any action performed with this attitude of Karma Yoga alone liberates one from action. All other kinds of action are binding in nature. Isn't it? Karmanaha anyatra lokoyam karma bandhana. Tasmat. What? You perform. Therefore, Arjuna, perform the action like what? Being established in that yoga. Sangam tyaktva. Giving up the attachment to the result of action and dedicating every single action to God, perform your duties. Tadartham karma kaunteya mukta sangas samachar. The same verse. Yajnarthat karmano nyatra lokoyam karma bandhana. Tadartham karma kaunteya. Therefore, Arjuna, perform actions for that Lord. Why? See, because all other actions which we are not dedicating to the Lord, we are dedicating to ourselves. And the moment there is a selfish desire involved with the action is polluted. But the moment this desire, selfish desire, goes away, the moment we are performing the action as dedication unto Lord, that itself brings perfection to the action. The very intention makes the action pure and perfect. The very intention makes that action pure and perfect. Doesn't matter whether you are doing the action perfectly or not. Doesn't matter whether the result is success or failure. The very intention behind the action makes that action perfect. Why? Because the action, maximum what it can give is purity of mind. And this action performed with Karma Yoga attitude gives that purity of mind, and therefore it gives the maximum result that the action can give, and therefore it is a perfect action. See, please note. Now when we are saying that the action is perfect, is not from the standpoint of action itself, but from the standpoint of the intention behind the action. That intention makes the action perfect. So when it is said yoga karmasu kaushalam, what it means? That karma yoga changes the very nature of action. That action which was earlier selfish, that action which is binding in nature, now is selfless, dedicated unto God, and therefore becomes liberating. Please understand this. In Upadesh Sara, while explaining this concept of Karma Yoga, Bhagavan Sri Ramana Maharshi brings three verses, very beautiful verses. Karturadneya prapyate phalam karma kimparam karma tajjadam kritimaho dadhau patana karanam phalam ashashvatam gati nirodhakam. He says what kind of actions we perform result into. The selfish actions that we perform result into this. What? Kritimaho dadhau patana karanam. They are the cause for us being in bondage of samsara. Gati nirodhakam, they obstruct our path to liberation. But then in the third verse he says, Ishwararpitam nechaya kritam chitta shodhakam mukti sadhakam. But the moment you change the attitude behind the action, the moment the action is not for selfish desire, but for a higher cause of dedication unto the Lord, when Ishwararpana Bhava is there, then what? Then that same action with the changed attitude now becomes what? Chitta shodhakam mukti sadhakam. It purifies my mind and it takes me to liberation. So purification of mind, chitta shuddhi, is the highest result possible by action. All other actions will create punya and papa. Karma yoga, the action performed with the attitude of karma yoga, creates chitta shuddhi, which is the best result possible, and therefore it is the most perfect action. Also, because all other actions are binding, this action is liberating. Which action? The action performed with karma yoga attitude. The action performed by being established in karma yoga. And therefore, when Bhagavan says that yoga karmasu kaushalam, he also refers to being established in that karma yoga, that intention changes the nature of action and therefore brings perfection in action. So two way we can join these two definitions, samatvam yoga uchyate and yoga karmasu kaushalam. No doubt, when the mind is equanimous, the action, the very action is perfect. Often Swami Chinmayananji Maharaj, people used to wonder how every action that he performs is perfect. People used to get letters from him, they will write letters and they will get reply from Puja Gurudev, that on that letter where the stamp would be pasted, it used to be from exact distance from both sides and it used to be exact same place. There are people who have preserved these letters and the envelopes, and they show, you see, between 40 years of difference. This was sent in 1960s, this was sent in 1990s, but you see the position of the stamp is still the same. Now, in the action also there is perfection. Why? Because the mind is equanimous. There is no agitation in the mind. Why? Because the action is performed as dedication unto Lord, not for selfish desire. The moment selfish desire enters, the agitation starts. The agitation starts. The moment attachment comes into picture, the action is no more perfect. Often we hear doctors etc. saying also, when I am surgery on somebody else, there is no problem. Relative is lying on that operation bed and I have to perform the surgery for that person, suddenly the hand starts to shake. Why? Because there is attachment. There is involvement of mind. There is a selfish desire which is there, which disturbs an action. So very beautifully, Bhagavan Shri Krishna brings these topics, that being equipoised, being equanimous itself is yoga. So please understand that this is something which we can practice every moment. We don't need to, how much time do you do yoga? That is yogasana, that you may do half an hour, 1 hour, etc. But actually, how much time can we practice yoga? 24/7. Why? Because yoga is being in that equanimous state of mind. Yoga is being 100% available in the present situation, so that each and every action of ours becomes perfect. Because of intention and also because of the performance of action. Samatvam yoga uchyate, yoga karmasu kaushalam. When there is higher altar of dedication, there is greater inspiration and there is better performance of action. When I have to do something for myself, I do it casually. But when I have to do something for somebody who matters to me a lot, suddenly the action changes. Somebody whom you admire is coming to your house, for example. Then what happens? Then suddenly we keep our house perfect. Suppose you are a singer, you perform in many places. But suppose that day you have to perform in front of your guru. Then what happens? Suddenly that polishing comes. Why? Because you know you can't make a single mistake. Why? Because that person matters to you. That performance is dedicated to that person, and therefore it becomes perfect. As long as dedication is unto oneself, the action remains same. So samatvam yoga uchyate yoga karmasu kaushalam. One more definition comes in 6th chapter, where Bhagavan says, tam vidya dukkha samyogam viyogam yoga samnitam sa nishchayena yoktavyaha yogaha anirvinna chetasa. He says, Arjuna, understand what? Dukkha samyoga viyogam yogam yoga samnitam. What is called as yoga? Viyoga from samyoga of dukkha. That is called as yoga. See, 3 times the word yoga is coming. Yoga means union. Sanyoga or samyoga means complete union. Viyoga means separation. So Bhagavan says, what is yoga? Viyoga is yoga. Separation is union. Hi? Separation is union. Yes. Separation from what? Separation from union with sorrow is yoga. Means what? The moment I separate myself from sorrow, that state of mind is called as yoga. Why? Why it is called separation? Because I am already attached to the sorrow. Dukkha sanyoga has already happened. Why? Because we are in samsara. So dukkha sanyoga has already happened. Now Bhagavan is saying that you separate. Separate yourself from that sorrow. So dukkha sanyoga viyogam yogam. Tam yogam, tam vidya, tam yogam vidya. That you understand as yoga. What? Dukkha sanyoga viyogam. Now you see, this again opens up a complete broad, avenue for us where we can practice yoga. Every single time I refuse to be sad is the time I am practicing yoga. Why? Because that is anyways the final goal. The final goal is being one with that supreme self by which I can attain permanent happiness. The final goal is to realize that my nature is Ananda Swarupa. It is my nature that I am bliss, not blissful. I am not happy. I am happiness. So every single time we separate ourselves from sorrow, we refuse to be sad, I am practicing yoga. We are practicing yoga every single time. So, what is yoga again? Separation from the union with sorrow is called as yoga. Somehow, I have become now attached to, united with sorrow. Now, how I can separate it? In Vedantic concept, separating oneself from the attachment, identification with the body, mind, intellect, that is called as yoga. Why? Because that is the sorrow. That identification, the feeling of oneness that I have with my body, mind, intellect, that is what is creating the sorrow. So when I separate myself away from this identification, that is called as yoga. Not being identified with body, mind, intellect is yoga. Okay. So see how beautifully Bhagavan Shri Krishna is bringing these topics. And at different levels we can practice all these. Okay. Let me give one more point. If you carefully see the 3 definitions of samatvam yoga uchyate, yoga karmasu kaushalam and dukkha samyoga viyogam, these 3 definitions refer to the 3 paths. Samatvam yoga uchyate is path of devotion, because the very basis of devotion is oneness. The word devotion itself means oneness, isn't it? Love. Devotion is love. No, what is love? Love is oneness. So being equanimous, being in that state of oneness, that is yoga. Yoga karmasu kaushalam refers to karma yoga. And dukkha samyoga vyogam refers to jnana yoga. Why? Because it is telling me the cause of sorrow is identification, ignorance, and therefore get yourself out of this identification. Destroy the ignorance. So the three definitions actually point out to the three paths: bhakti yoga, karma yoga, and jnana yoga. Right? This is yoga. So Bhagavan Shri Krishna has explained what is yoga. He has also emphasized and is urging us to become yogi. We saw already, no? He says, Tasmat yogi bhava, yogamatishta uttishta bharata, yogastha kuru karmani, tasmad yogaya yujyasva. Sa nishchayena yoktavyaha yogaha. Should do this. He does not just say that you should do this and what it is, but he also tells why I should become yogi. Tasmad yogi bhava, when it is said, why? Because he explains why. One place he says, because being a yogi is greater than ascetics. A yogi is greater than ascetics, scholars, karmis, all of them. Tapasvibhyo adhiko yogi, jnanibhyopi mato adhikaha, karmibhyascha adhiko yogi, tasmad yogi bhava Arjuna. Why? Because a yogi, now again, what do we mean by a yogi? Don't just say one who is doing yogasanas. One who is standing on one leg is not a yogi here in this context. That person is also called as yogi because he is following the path of Ashtanga Yoga. Therefore, he is called as yogi. But here, what do we mean by that yogi? One who is united with the Supreme as the goal. Such a person, that jnani, I must become. So, as a seeker, I must become a karma yogi, bhakti yogi, jnana yogi. And as what we say, as a sadhya, I must become a jnani. So, tasmat yogi bhava, when Bhagavan Shri Krishna says to Arjuna, it refers to all of these. Become a karma yogi, become a bhakti yogi, become a jnana yogi, and finally, what? Become yogi. What do you mean by yogi there? Become a jnani. Realize that oneness. Be united with that Supreme. Why? Because such a person is greater than the ascetics, those who give pain to the body, mind, etc. to train the mind, is greater than the scholars who understand all the concepts just intellectually but are not performing it, and is also greater than karmis, those who are performing actions, whether sakama karmis, nishkama karmis. This yogi, this jnani is greater, and therefore Arjuna, you become that. In the same chapter 6, first verse itself, he starts by saying that this karma yogi, this yogi, jnani also you can refer to, is a true renunciate, true sannyasi, and is also a true dhyana yogi, true meditator. Right? We have anashritah karma phalam, karyam karma karoti sa sannyasi cha yogi cha, na niragnihi, na chakriyah. Nobody else is true yogi. A true yogi is a true sannyasi and is also a true jnani. Therefore, tasmad yogi bhava Arjuna. Therefore, Arjuna, become a yogi. Why? Because once you become yogi, it already has the essence of sannyasa and essence of meditation, essence of dhyana yoga. Therefore, you become that. Tasmad yogi bhava Arjuna. In other place, he also says why yogi we should become. Because yoga destroys sorrow. Yogo bhavati dukkha. 6th chapter again. Why, how, when yoga becomes dukkha? When yoga is practiced in balanced life. Yuktahara viharasya, yukta cheshtasya karmasu, yukta swapnavabodhasya, yogo bhavati dukkha. Again, here another definition of yoga is given, and that is balanced life is yoga, which we have already seen as equanimity. Right? So you become that. That is the reason that you should become yogi. Why? Because this yoga will destroy the sorrow. Is it not the goal of our life? Don't we all, at all times, trying to end our sorrow? That's the goal. That goal will be achieved. The supreme goal of moksha also will be achieved when we practice this yoga. As the means, we must practice karma yoga, bhakti yoga, ashtanga yoga or jnana yoga. And as the goal, we must be yogi. We must be united with the supreme. That is the point. In second chapter again, Bhagavan says that ultimate goal of human life is this moksha. Shruti vipratipannate yada sthasyati nischala samadha vachala buddhi tada yogam avapsasi. Then you will attain yoga. When? There that yoga means moksha. You will attain moksha when? Shruti vipratipannate yada sthasyati nischala. When you have karma yoga. Karma yoga gives chitta shuddhi. With that chitta shuddhi you gain self-knowledge, atma jnana. And when that mind becomes fixed in that experience, samadhau achala buddhi, when the mind becomes fixed, tada yogam avapsasi. There, that time, we will attain this yoga, moksha. Okay? This yogi, this jnani, is the epitome of perfection. Is also the final thing that anybody can achieve. And his vision of oneness is also given by Bhagavan Shri Krishna by using the word yogi. He says in 6th chapter again, Jnana Vijnana Truptatma Kutastho Vijitendriyaha Yuktaha Ityuchyate Yogi Samaloshtasma Kanchana. Next verse also, Surun Mitrar Yudasena Madhyastha Dvesha Bandhushu Sadhushu Apicha Papeshu Samabuddhir Vishishyate. That yogi Yukta Ityuchyate, he is really united with that supreme. He is really a jnani. Why? Because he has absolute union, oneness, vision of oneness he has towards everything. Samaloshta kanchana. Loshta, ashma, kanchana. Loshta means lump of clay. Ashma means stone. Kanchana means gold. Towards all three, he has equanimous vision. Equanimous vision means not that he doesn't understand the difference, but he has no attachment towards the gold. He has no aversion from the clay. Surun, Mitra, Udasina, Madhyastha, Dvesha, Bandhushu. Among all kinds of people, he has got Samabuddhi. Sadhushu apcha papeshu, even towards them. Why? Because he has risen himself to that state where there is absolute oneness. This state of oneness is yoga. The state of supreme bliss is yoga. The state of total annihilation of sorrow is yoga. To reach this state, the means that one has to take is also called as yoga. Whether it is karma yoga, bhakti yoga, ashtanga yoga or jnana yoga. But that final state of liberation, of sarvatma bhava, the vision of oneself in all, that is true yoga. So, when we study Gita, we come across this concept of yoga. Yoga is that final union with the Supreme. Yoga is the state of supreme bliss. Yoga is the state of total oneness. Yoga is the state where you see or experience oneself in and through everything. That is yoga. How to achieve this state? The path is also called as yoga. Whether it is explained as Samatvam Yoga Uchyate, Bhakti Yoga method, or whether it is explained as Yoga Karmasu Kaushalam, the method of Karma Yoga, or Dukkha Samyoga Viyogam Yogam. In any case, in any way, by any means, reach this supreme state of yoga. That is what Bhagavan Shri Krishna calls as yoga. Okay? What we understand today as yoga and what is the real concept of yoga are quite far. There's nothing wrong with where we are starting. The only thing that we have to keep in mind is where we have to reach. Till that time, no stopping. Keep on doing this. Okay? Sufficient for today. There are some questions which have come, which we will take now.
Yes, so we had some questions even before the session was over. The first question came from Anupam Pandey ji, where he said, please explain Atma Gyan. And then he also sent another question saying, yoga is a balanced state of thoughts and intellect. How to make sure our actions are focused and selfless with karma yoga.
So, what was the first question? Atma Jnana.
Yes, Atma Gyan.
Okay. So, as I said, that Atma Jnana is to understand that the bliss that I am seeking is me myself. That supreme state or supreme self is me myself. This is called as self-knowledge, Atma Jnana, which is given in the second chapter of Bhagavad-Gita, Sankhya Yoga, right? As a means to achieve this state or attain this state, Karma Yoga is given as a means in the same second chapter also, and further explained in the third chapter. So that is Atma Jnana. Atma Jnana refers to Brahma Atma Aikya Jnana, the knowledge of oneness of the self with Brahman. That is answer to the first question. Second question, when we say yoga is a balanced state of mind, how to make sure that our actions are focused and selfless? By Karma Yoga. So you see, selflessness is achieved by Ishvara Arpana Buddhi, and focus is achieved by Prasada Buddhi. See, when I am not focused on the result of action, automatically my focus is in the present state of action. In the third chapter, I think verse number 30, Mai sarvani karmani sannyasyaadhyatma chetasa nirashihi nirmamo bhutva yudhyasva vigatajvaraha. Summarizes, Bhagavan Shri Krishna summarizes the entire Karma Yoga concept and says, Mai sarvani karmani sannyasya. Dedicate all actions to me. Then what will happen? Then that selflessness will be achieved. Adhyatma chetasa, with that complete focus. How to achieve that? Next line it says, Nirashihi, not having any asha, any hope, any desire for the future. Nirmamaha, not having any ego of the past actions. Yudhyasva, perform your duties, Arjuna. Vigatajvaraha, without having any fear of excitement. So Puja Gurudev Swami Chinmayananji used to always say, we are not focused in action because there are three leakages. Worries of the future, memories of the past, and excitement of the present. Karma Yoga stops these three leakages. We are not too much worried about the future because the goal is not to achieve something. We are not worried or thinking about the past because it is gone and dead. And we are not doing the action for selfish purpose. And we are not excited in the present because the performance of action is not important. Dedication is what is important. So if we are able to follow this Karma Yoga, if we are able to block these leakages, we will be able to perform actions with focus and with selfless attitude. Right? I think I have explained. Next.
Thank you so much. The next part of his question is, he's also saying, can you please explain Karma Yoga with regard to Sanchita and Prarabdha Karma?
So Sanchita and Prarabdha Karma is results of action. So as I said, action when performed creates two kinds of results. If action is good, it creates punya. If action is bad, it creates papa. Now this collection of punya and papa is what is called as Sanchita. And that the collection of the result which is ready to fructify is called as Prarabdha. Now what happens with Karma Yoga is, Karma Yoga does not create future punya or papa. So Karma Yoga may not have an impact on the past Sanchita and Prarabdha, but it does not create any more new Sanchita or Prarabdha. That is one of the important aspects of Karma Yoga. But because Karma Yoga has got Prasada Buddhi as one of the core factor, when I am experiencing that Sanchita and Prarabdha, when that Punya and Papa comes in my life as Sukha and Dukkha, I accept it smilingly. So it what we say, blunts the effect of that Sanchita and Prarabdha. Sanchita and Prarabdha, Punya and Papa is supposed to trigger something in me. But because I have made that end blunt by Karma Yoga attitude, by saying that whatever comes is His grace, is His gift. So I what we say, nullify the effect of Sanchita and Prarabdha. The effect is not actually nullified, but its impact on me is nullified. Hope that is clear.
Thank you so much, Anupam ji. I hope that answers your question. Then Sheshadri ji is asking us, Hari Om, there's a fourth yoga often used apart from the three, that is Karma, Bhakti and Jnana. Few say Raja Yoga, while few call it Dhyana Yoga. Please clarify.
Yes, so the fourth path, which is called as Ashtanga Yoga or Raja Yoga or Hatha Yoga or Dhyana Yoga, these are four different names for the same path, right? And that, as I said, is one of the paths. Karma Yoga, Bhakti Yoga, Ashtanga Yoga, Jnana Yoga. It is one of the paths which has Yama, Niyama, Asana, Pranayama, Pratyahara, Dharana, Dhyana, Samadhi as 8 limbs. So that also comes, that Ashtanga Yoga or Hatha Yoga or Raja Yoga also is one of the paths and therefore one of the yogas. Okay.
Thank you so much, Sheshatri ji. I hope that helps with your question. Then we have someone who's an anonymous attendee who is asking, how can action without intention be perfect? Because most of our actions are for a cause. So if we perform without cause or desire for fruit, how can we vouch for perfection?
When we say that most of our actions are for a cause, most of the times the cause is selfish, which makes the action imperfect. And I am not saying we have to perform action without any intention. No, I am saying what Bhagavan Shri Krishna says in Gita is, perform the action with an intention of dedication. To give you simple example, we were discussing in the session also, when I am doing it for myself, I may not do it that perfectly. But I have to, when I am dedicating it to somebody else, suddenly my action becomes better. Suddenly my action becomes better. Right? So how can we ensure the perfection in action? Because of the intention being changed, it automatically brings the perfection. Hope that also is clear.
Thank you so much. Then two questions are asked together. One is from anonymous attendee who is saying, what is the meaning of jnana? And then we have Chandrasekhar ji, I think, who is saying, is Jivan Mukta and Yogi the same?
Right. So what is the meaning of jnana? Meaning of jnana. Here the jnana concept is used in two ways. When we are talking about Atma jnana, as I said, the self-knowledge refers to the knowledge of oneness of Brahman and Atman, Brahman and the self, the supreme reality and self. But when that same jnana word comes as jnana yoga, the path of knowledge, there it refers to Shravana Manana Nididhyasana, the path which leads me to Atma jnana. So jnana means knowledge. Whether it is intellectual knowledge or experiential knowledge, that kind of difference might be there, but both are referred to by the same term jnana. This is the answer to the first question. Second question, is Jivan Mukta and Yogi same? Yes. From I was telling you, from the context that Bhagavan Shri Krishna is talking, in many of the places he is referring to Yogi as Karma Yogi, but in many other places he is referring to a Jnani as a Yogi, as a Jivan Mukta Purusha as Yogi. So when he says that the yoga is that state where there is no difference, right? So he is talking about the state of Jnani, Sarvatma Bhava, etc. He is talking about that Jnani. He is talking about Jivan Mukta.
Thank you. Then Ravindra ji is asking about how to attain some Atma Bhava. I think that's what he means. Can you just give us some clarity?
Yeah,
if you're
that's Samatma Bhava, Sarvatma Bhava. Sarvatma Bhava, how to achieve? That is the question.
Yeah.
See, it can be achieved in various stages. One particular stage is to understand that all the people who are here are human beings and therefore we are all same. We are all have come from God, etc. That's all different stages. But the final thing is, there is nobody else other than me. Mamatma Sarva Bhutatma. The self in me is the self in all. So this Sarvatma Bhava as practice has to be done by not seeing the differences between people and not seeing their negativities. That's the practice, and it has to finally culminate in the fact that every single being is my own self. That is how it has to culminate. How to achieve that? Through the entire path which is mentioned. Follow karma yoga, bhakti yoga, ashtanga yoga, jnana yoga. The result is sarvatma bhava. The four paths culminate, merge into that final result of sarvatma bhava. Right.
Thank you so much. Also, Anupam Pandey is saying Dhanyavad, beautifully explained his questions. Poonam Verma ji is asking, we try to do everything for moksha, but is moksha final or is there something on the other side too?
Now, when we say we do everything for moksha, first we have to understand what you are referring to by the word moksha. If by moksha you are thinking that we will go to some place at some point of time and live there forever happily thereafter, that's not the concept of moksha which is explained in Vedanta. Moksha is to realize that I am what I seek. That supreme Brahman is me alone. This is moksha. This once achieved, there is no coming back. There is nothing called as other side. All sides are you only. So there is no this side, that side, everything is you. So there is no other side, okay? But again, if we are thinking of moksha as reaching some place, going to Vaikuntha, Kailasha, etc., that's not the concept of moksha as explained in Vedanta. All right.
Thank you so much. Anand Kumarji is saying, you mentioned 3 shlokas that have the definition of yoga. He was able to note down 2, but not the third. If you could kindly repeat which adhyay and shlokas, that might be helpful.
So first definition is Samatvam Yoga Uchyate, 2.48, chapter 2, verse 48. Second definition is Yoga Karmasu Kaushalam, chapter number 2, verse number 50, 2.50. And third definition, Tam Vidya Dukkha Samyoga Viyogam Yoga Samnitam, is chapter number 6, verse number 23, 6.23. These are the 3 definitions.
Thank you so much. The next question is from Lucy Johnson, who's saying when doing karma yoga, isn't what would become punya instead removes papa? I'm not sure I understand that question, Vedji. Do you get
When doing karma yoga, isn't what would become punya instead of removing papa? So, as I understand, let me put it like this: it neither generates punya nor does it remove papa. Karma yoga neither creates punya nor removes papa. Karma yoga puts us on a complete different path, which is different from punya and papa. It takes us to liberation through chitta shuddhi, through purification of mind. So it neither generates punya nor does it remove papa. But as I said, it makes us stable to go through the papa, result of papa, which is dukkha, because prasad buddhi is part of it, right? That is it.
Thank you so much. We only have time, unfortunately, for 1 or 2 questions more. Thank you so much for your time, Vedji, because it was such a great session, which is why so many questions are coming, but we'll answer just a few more. So Lipika Deepak ji is saying, will doing only Hatha Yoga lead to moksha?
Tough question to answer, because I know many of the students who are here attending are doing Hatha Yoga. Any yoga, whether it is karma yoga, bhakti yoga, ashtanga yoga, or jnana yoga, is independent and need not be done with other yogas. Means each one has capacity to give us something, and all 4 are giving us one same point, and that is they are making us ready for Atma Jnana. Hatha yoga can take us to liberation only through Atma Jnana. Karma yoga can take us to liberation only through Atma Jnana. Bhakti yoga also can take us to liberation only through Atma Jnana, and Jnana yoga can also take us to liberation through Atma Jnana. So can Hatha yoga take us to liberation? Yes, it can. Can it alone take us to liberation? Yes, it can, but only through Atma Jnana. It is like that Atma Jnana is the final gate. Through different paths you come, but you have to finally enter into that state of mukti through Atmajnana only. I hope I have answered without creating any kind of problems.
Thank
Yes.
you so much. But I get what you mean by Hatha Yoga. I think we ask that question. All of us keep asking ourselves when we're doing our asana practice, is this enough? But we'll find out. I guess everyone has their own journey, you know. The knowledge is out there. Our last question for this evening is coming from Smita Krishnanji, who said, Vedji, you mentioned a verse outside the Bhagavad-Gita by Ramana Maharishi ji. It was very beautifully explained, but she couldn't get the verse. So can you please repeat?
Upadesha Sara, first 3 verses. Upadesha Sara is the text written by Ramana Maharshi ji. First 3 verses I quoted. And find out.
Thank you so much. And while we have more questions, unfortunately, we'll have to end the session. But y'all can all forward your questions to us meanwhile, and maybe we can send them to Vedji. He can answer perhaps when he has time. So before we end the session today, just want to say a big thank you, Vedji, for joining us today. It was such an honor to meet you online on Zoom because, as I said, I watched the lecture. So it's been a very special session. Thank you. And before we leave, if anyone would like to, Veji, of course, represents the Chinmaya International Foundation. So we're just going to put the website in our chat box so you can visit the foundation. They offer many courses, many lovely things to read on the website, a lot of inspiration. And it is in our chat box. It's www.chinfo.org. So all our participants, please refer to the website. Before we sign out, any message or advice you'd like to share with us?
Thank you very much for calling. The advice is same which Bhagavan Shri Krishna has given to all of us. Tasmat Yogi Bhava. Arjunam Nimitti Kritya, taking Arjuna as a means, he is advising all of us. Tasmat Yogi Bhava. Let us stick to that advice and by his grace reach where he wants us to reach. Hari Om.
Hari Om. Thank you so much. And thank you to all our participants for joining us. Srinivas ji for making sure the session goes well. And I hope to see all of you next week for our next session of Yoga Insights. Hari Om.
Hari Om. We'll conclude with small prayer.
Yes, please.
Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate Om Shanti 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 Harihi Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha Harihi Om. Hari Om everyone.
Thank you so much. Just one last thing. The session is recorded. So everyone who's watching, please, you can share the session. It will be available on YouTube, on the Indica Yoga YouTube channel, also the Facebook channel and our website. So please share this wonderful session with friends and family. Thank you for joining. Dhanyavad. Hari Om.